Welcome to It's a Grand Life, where our mission is to be a voice for grand families and kinship caregivers everywhere. Did you know that in the United States alone, there are 2.3 million grandparents raising their grandchildren? 2.3 million. It's a Grand Life is committed to making a difference for those kids. That's why we have the podcast, a Facebook group, and the Grand Fund. The Grand Fund, which is a 501c3 which was launched in June of 2024, provides financial assistance to grand families, including shelter, food, clothing, and household needs. Grand families are in every neighborhood, in every city, every tribe, and territory nationwide. If this is you or someone you love, we're here for you, and we welcome you to join us on this mission. Our goal is to offer hope and resources to help you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. You can also join our Facebook group. Just search for it under It's a Grand Life. And your reviews, comments, and sharing of our podcasts help us reach others that need assistance. Welcome to another episode of It's a Grand Life. Hello, my name is Craig Nash. I'd like to welcome you to another It's a Grand Life. And you are going to be so blessed today when you get to meet our guest, Sandra Adams, who is a certified financial planner, and she's with the Center for Financial Planning. And I really have, Sandy, I've not met a grandparent yet who doesn't need to talk to you, and especially the folks that we deal with that are just kind of overwhelmed with raising 1 to 3 additional kids that they weren't counting on, and life's really changed for them. But we just welcome you to It's a Grand Life, and tell us a little bit about how you got into financial planning.
Well, I kind of fell into it. I went to school for public relations and communications and found my way to financial planning kind of by accident. I knew someone whose mom was an original partner at the Center for Financial Planning and needed someone as a support person. And it was just a time in my career when I was actually in a nonprofit organization, Hospice of Michigan, and needed to do a career change because funding at a nonprofit is never predictable. And I came over to the Center for Financial Planning and fell in love with the business because it was helping people. And I love that's nonprofit was helping people and financial planning is helping people. And it was kind of doing the same thing, just not in the nonprofit world. So I fell in love with it and just started studying for all of the licenses and degrees that you need to do financial planning. And I've grown up in the business. So I've now been here 29 years.
Wow.
Started out as a support person, made my way up kind of doing every job at the center. We were 8 people strong. We're now 34 with interns this summer. And now I'm a lead financial planner and a partner at the firm, and I wouldn't be anywhere else because every day I get to help people and do a job that I love and be part of a team that is like family to me. So here I am.
That is absolutely a great story. But you said something I think is really important that I don't think most folks realize, myself included, how many certifications you have to be a certified financial planner, how many section this one, and can you tell us a little bit about the certification that goes in?
A certified financial planner has to take, back when I did it, it's a little bit different now, but back when I did it, you had to pass a certification test for each section of the license, which, so there was a test for life insurance, and there was a test for tax planning, and there was a test for investment planning. And so for every part of the financial planning process, there was a separate test that you had to take on your way to taking the comprehensive exam, which is similar to the test to become an attorney or a CPA. Mm-hmm. So there's a big certification exam that you have to take to be certified, which it was back then a full 2-day exam. And then you had to wait like several months to find out if you passed the exam. And then once you found that out, there was also a number of months of experience that you had to have in the industry to get your certification as well. And then you could get the marks to actually practice in the industry. It's a little bit shorter period of time to kind of go through that process now because all the classes are online and you can get through it much quicker. And the exam's actually on a computer now, so you can actually take the test and get your preliminary results right after you take the exam. So, you know, many years ago when you took it, it was a lot more of a manual process. Now it's a little bit quicker, but it's a comprehensive exam, and there's a board that makes that kind of watches over what we do to make sure that we're doing things like making recommendations that are in our client's best interest, which is an important thing. So when you're going to an advisor, you want to pick someone who is a CFP, because then you're ensuring that you're going to someone who's going to be making recommendations in your best interest, not their best interest. And not every advisor out there is doing that.
That is really important, especially for our grandparents who may not be CFP experts or, investment experts and things like that. So that we need to deal with folks that have a lot of ethics and credibility. The one thing I do want to highlight for our listeners is that working with grandparents is not who are raising their grandkids is not foreign to you. I know you told me you have a lot of direct involvement with your, is it one grandchild or more than one?
Yeah, I have only one grandchild, but my daughter and my grandchild live with me right now because his father passed away when he was 2, and so they had to move back in with me while she finished school. And so I have had quite a bit of responsibility in kind of raising him for the last 5 years. And so, I'm right there with you. And I've bared kind of a lot of the financial responsibility because I had to put her through school. And until she recently got her first job in January, she hasn't had any income. So right there with you guys.
Well, you're absolutely right with us, especially when it comes to cutting the checks. And that's that we appreciate your experience. You're not so you definitely know what our listeners are going through. And so I'm just going to ask you, Sandy Adams, what should grandparents raising grandkids know about financial planning?
So, I mean, number one is, kind of going back to kind of square one with your financial plan and thinking about what were we thinking about as far as like what was the budget, what were our financial goals prior to taking on additional mouths to feed, and rethinking what it is now, and and looking at also what resources might we have now that we didn't have before. It's not always the same. It depends on what your circumstances are. I mean, I certainly think that most people don't adopt their grandchildren, which limits the financial resources that you probably have available to you. So if you adopt your grandchildren, all of a sudden you might have more resources available to you. If you're certainly retired, you're over age 60, Social Security age, then all of a sudden you perhaps have some Social Security resources that become available to you to draw on for your grandchildren. You have some additional tax resources and credits and things like that you have available to you. But if you don't adopt your grandchildren, then, limited resources, right? You can't draw on government resources necessarily, but there are resources out there available to you if you look hard enough.
That's a big point, though. We've interviewed a lot of folks. We don't have a lot of folks that talk about the benefits of adoption, and if you can get additional Social Security support for your grand, that is a big deal because
it's huge.
In our world, if you're a part of a foster family, you can get support from the state. But if you are a grandparent that wants to stay out of that government involvement and raise your grandchild yourself, there's not a lot of financial support. But I didn't think of the Social Security angle. So that's really an important thing. And now in fact, all of our listeners, I would imagine, are over 40, over 50, over 60, some are over 70. If you're over 50, is it too late to have a financial plan?
No. No, I mean, uh, as you can imagine, we're planners. So we encourage people to start, sooner rather than later, obviously, to plan for your financial future. And the sooner you plan, the better off generally you are. But like a lot of times we'll have people come in and we'll say, when would you like to retire? And they say, yesterday. and, and quite honestly, they're looking to retire in the next couple of years. And, really it's about getting you from where you are now to where you want to be. So, we work with people and do the best we can to get them from where they are to where they hope to be and figure out the puzzle. How can we feasibly get you to where you are to where you want to be and make it work the best we can. Sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes people will say, like, realistically, I would like to retire in 2 years and have X amount of income a year in retirement. And like what they're hoping to do, they can't possibly do because they started too late. But like, how can we make it work in the best amount of time possible? When there are like life happens, like a lot of times, like maybe we had a client come in and they say, we want to retire in 2 years. And then next year they come in and say, guess what? Now all of a sudden we have grandchildren that we're raising. Guess what? When we do the plan, we say this is a moving target because life changes. And most likely when we do a plan, we say, it's very likely the moment you walk out the door, this plan is going to change and we're going to have to make adjustments. These are the exact circumstances we're talking about. So if they come back next year and they say, we've got some additional expenses due to grandchildren we're raising, then we're going to have to adjust the plan accordingly. Maybe they're going to have to work a little bit longer. Maybe they're going to have to plan to live on less themselves. Right. And the additional expense is going to be the grandchildren for a while. But what I do encourage people to think about is the fact that, their needs are going to have to always come first as far as like the long term. Right. Yes, your grandchildren, you need and want to take care of them now. But as far as like grandparents that say, I want to make sure when my grandchildren get older, I'm going to buy them a car and I'm going to send them to school and I like all the things. Let's bring that back to reality. Because first and foremost, your money's your money and you need to make sure that it lasts for as long as your lifetime. Because if you start giving away all that money and making grandiose plans for the grandchildren and you give it all away, there's no guarantee that's coming back for you to take care of you later. I mean, we all think we raise our grandchildren to be these wonderful people and, they'll take care of me later. Maybe not.
But one of the things that you're talking about, which I think is so important, is that you don't have a 5-minute, 30-minute, hour meeting with a client and you don't see them again. They come in on a routine basis, review the plan. Because Sandy, I can't tell you how many grandparents that I've talked to that have said, I had to go back to work, and I was supposed to retire at 62, and now I'm looking at 70, and you would just put the parameters in a spreadsheet or a report for them. Mm-hmm. So, okay, this is what this means, Mr. Jones, and you would determine the best time for them to leave the workplace, right?
Yeah. And let's look at where you are next year. And, because we have to make a lot of assumptions when we're doing planning. Yeah. What's cost of living going to be long term? How much do we think we'll make on any investments that you have? What are we planning to spend? And all these things. What's your health going to be? And indeed, we're raising grandchildren. The stress of life in general, health can change. We don't want to burn ourselves out, and that can change your life expectancy trajectory. All the things, meeting regularly helps us make the proper adjustments in the planning as needed as well.
And the adjustments are just part of it, right?
Yeah,
They're giving a
absolutely.
specific plan, and you're tailoring it to life as it evolves. And
Exactly.
are there a lot of tools for grandparents raising grandkids that you look at? Whether it's when I say tools, I mean maybe revenue streams that you're looking at for whether it's Social Security or do
Yeah.
you help them find that 401k from that employer 10 years ago that they
Yeah. All those things,
yeah.
like any possible revenue stream we can. So like it could be, I mean, we hope we don't have to make people work longer than intended, but that could be a thing, even if it's maybe part-time work. That's something not stressful, can be flexible. It is gathering all the assets that you have at your disposal and using those to the maximum, efficiency possible. Um, Pension plan, if people have pensions, creating a self, like a pension that might not have existed, but like, so if people don't have a pension from an employer, but would like to have some kind of regular income stream, taking some of the assets and creating it a regular income stream using some kind of annuity. Now, I'm not a huge proponent of annuities, but if there's a way to create a regular income stream for someone and that helps them in their life, and the interest rates are good at the time, like, so it can be a good tool for some people to utilize those types of tools. Life insurance sometimes is necessary, needed, and helpful, especially when grandchildren come into the picture. And very important when grandchildren come back into grandparents' lives to make sure the estate plan gets updated, especially if the grandchildren's parents are maybe in and out of the picture or not in the picture, but making sure that the grandchildren replace the children in the estate plan or have backup guardians for the grandparents, that the beneficiaries get updated accordingly on different types of accounts to protect those grandchildren in the case that the grandparent, something happens to you as a grandparent. Like, how do then, who's next in line to take care of them?
So you've just mentioned a couple of real important things. We talked about having the financial plan, but then one of the pieces is the estate plan.
Yeah.
And right, and you folks look at life insurance and probably long-term care insurance, I would imagine,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and see um, you you don't talk about health plans, I would imagine. That's or do you?
Well, we make sure that, so that's it impacts the financial plan. So we do make sure that people have, so like your Medicare age or pre-Medicare age, we're making sure you have a good healthcare plan. How are you paying for that? Um, for the grandkids, like if they're not being covered by their parents' healthcare plan, like what kind of health coverage do they have?
Right.
Depending on what income level. If grandparents are on Medicare, then how are we covering health insurance if their parents aren't able to cover them? Is it Medicaid? Is it through the CHIP program? Is it like, how can we utilize the government systems to make sure that they have affordable health care? So like all of that is part of like all the stuff
So,
we're looking at,
so you've
like
got to have your
all of it
hands on a
and
lot
everything,
of different
all the
pieces of
cookie
the
jars,
pie. Yep.
all the cookie jars. Yeah. But just like making sure, like, so that's insurance that we're looking at. We do, like, we don't write the estate plan, but we do make sure people have their estate plan in
Okay.
place and that it's coordinated with a financial plan. So like the beneficiaries are correct, that the estate plan, if there's a trust in place, that the assets are funded accordingly, that powers of attorney are in place, like all of those things are taken care of because that's a part of the overall plan.
Let's talk about. I know your associate Jacqueline Jackson. We've talked to her about what's happening in the Center for Financial Planning world, and
Yep.
but you've got a kickoff event next month on July 15th at the Bloomfield Township Library, and it's for grandparents and grandchildren are invited to a fun-filled and festive lunch. Can you tell us about that? Are you going to be there, first of all?
Yes, I will be there. And we just wrote a book this year. It's kind of all things financial planning, what it's like to work with a financial planner. It covers kind of all the topics of financial planning. It kind of weaves in their case studies about what it's like to work with a financial planner. It was written kind of cooperatively by all the lead planners in our office. And I have a niche area of working with older adults. So I wrote a chapter on longevity planning. So people that are sandwich generation and are caring for like their grandchildren and an older adult parent. I do kind of that stuff as well. But so the kickoff event is kind of like, I have a panel talking about with some of the authors of the book, and it's talking about kind of like the book and some of a few of the topics, including like some of the topics you might be interested in as a grandparent. And then we're going to have some fun activities going on, and we'll be giving away copies of our book during that event.
And one of the topics that I think I saw in Jacqueline's email was you're going to be talking about generational wealth.
Yeah.
Now that is a big term. What is generational wealth?
So it's all about kind of like there's a big kind of trend going on right now about how money is passing from generation to generation to generation. So a lot of the wealth that's held right now is being held by like the oldest generation, kind of like the baby boomers or older. Yeah. And because those older adults are getting into their 90s or so and passing away, then wealth is transferring down to the next generation. And it's all about how we should be educating next generations on financial literacy. And so that as money passes from one generation to the next, we are educating folks on how to handle money so it's handled properly and efficiently, so we don't just waste it.
But that is real exciting, and I love the idea of you guys putting together a book, because many of the folks we talk to are kind of clueless about what a CFP is and does, and you could really help our audience by doing this. So you're meeting on the 15th of July in Bloomfield Township Library, and then a week later you're there as well. I think that's talking about estate planning and charitable giving and kind of the things we're talking about. So you incorporate charitable giving into the plan if folks want to do that. Yep,
absolutely. So I'll just be a little bit more in depth and more like education focused, not so much just, like just for fun and, but we'll kind of get more in depth on kind of educating folks on some of those topics.
So Sandy, if our listeners join you on July 15th and they've got some questions, would that be a good time to bring them to your attention there at
Absolutely.
Your colleagues? And if there's a need to set something up after that, you would take it from there?
Absolutely.
Well, I've really enjoyed our chat today. You've really given us a nice overview of what the Center for Financial Planning does. And I'm really glad you're local here in Southeast Michigan. And I'm hoping that you have a overflow capacity there on July 15th. Because I really think I know your heart. You went from the not-for-profit world to the serving folks with the financial planning world, and I know our listeners could really use you. So thanks so much for being our guest here on It's a Grand Life.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we look forward to having you again, keeping us posted on any changes in tax laws or anything that our listeners need to be aware of. You've always got a spot here. We'd love to, because I know your heart is for helping people, and especially these grand families. So hope you have a great event on the 15th, and give our best to everyone at the Center for Financial Planning. And thanks again.
You're so welcome.
Thank you for joining us today for It's a Grand Life. It's a Grand Life provides vital content, regulatory updates, and subject matter experts that are committed to supporting the 2.4 million kids and their caregivers from every neighborhood, every city, every tribe and territory nationwide. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review. Every new subscriber and review helps us reach others that need assistance. As caregivers, we are united in purpose. We are driven by hope while providing strength for today and hope for tomorrow. We are truly making a difference while living the grand life. If you have a suggestion for a future episode, please reach out to us. But we'll see you next time for another It's a Grand Life. Thank you for joining us.